Hello, Roma. Welcome.
Yeah. Hello.
Hello. I'm
Oh,
Yolanda. We haven't properly met
hello.
yet. How
Hi,
are you?
Yolanda. Hi. All right, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm doing very
Can you
well.
hear me?
I can hear you okay. It's a little bit crackly.
It was in there, but I'll look again. I might just grab a mic. Hold on.
Sure
Be
thing.
back. Is it there? No.
For anyone on the Facebook Live, we'll be starting this session in about 5 minutes. So bear with us while we just sort out the technical aspects.
Right, let's try even just earphones.
And here comes Mr. Steve New.
No, that's not working. Oh well. Hi, Steve.
G'day. Upload your video right now.
You are very quiet, Steve.
Oh,
I am very quiet.
Yeah.
Rather strange. Sometimes my mic decides it's just gonna like go quiet. How am I now?
You are fine now. That's better.
Okay,
okay.
connected. So
All right. I'm not going to be able to use a mic, so I think this is good.
Yeah, your sound is better now.
It's okay?
Yeah,
Let's move you a bit nearer.
yeah, that works.
Okay, great. Perfect. Yeah, how's your day been? Has it been hectic?
No, we've kind of got into our flow today.
Okay.
Yesterday morning was a little bit hectic. I was sort of learning what we were doing in front of 100 people. Um, but today we've got into the flow a lot better, and it's all running quite smoothly.
Well done. Great. Has there been some kind of technical
There's
challenge?
been a few technical issues around sharing PowerPoints and that sort of thing, but hopefully they're resolved now. They seem to appear on the live stream even when they weren't appearing in blue jeans for some reason.
Okay. All right. Random.
Okay, so we've got some attendees coming in. Welcome. This is going to be listening partnerships with Roma Norris. If you give us 3 minutes, we'll be starting the session very shortly. That's Steve sharing a video.
did you say I'm sharing a video?
I don't know. It appeared as a black screen that says that you're content sharing.
Wow, that's weird.
Yeah. You want the end of my phone? I just
All
tossed
right,
it.
I'm gonna exit the room and come back. All right, catch you.
Okay. So for anyone that's joining us now, if this is your first session of the self-care weekend. I'm just going to share some links in the chat. So if you haven't done already, you can join us on Facebook. You can make recommendations for teachers that you would like to see. We'll also be running embodiment circles in the lead up to the event. And you can sign up and share with your friends the Embodiment Conference website. So we've got 30 seconds. I'm going to wait for a few more people to come in. I know it's quite difficult to find the links. It's all a new process for everyone.
Trudging through the mud in Glastonbury to get here.
On the other stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Roma, you're quite local to me, I believe. You're in Bath?
Oh, in Frome, actually.
Oh, you're in Frome. I'm in Glastonbury. So very close. Yeah.
Whilst I was living in Melksham last year, sleeping on the floor in that Hill studio.
Oh, really? Yeah.
All quite close.
Yeah. You're quite spangly coming through. How your video is, Steve?
Yeah, I've turned my video off so that your video will screen share better. But yeah, are you doing the introductions, Yolanda?
Yes, I'll do the introduction. So, welcome everyone to Listening Partnerships, a practice for emotional hygiene and co-regulation. I'm here with Roma Norris, who's been working with birth for over 10 years, as an NCT breastfeeding counsellor for 5 years, and more recently, hand-in-hand parenting. And I know that hand-in-hand parenting has had a massive impact on her life, but I'll let her talk about it some more. The session's going to be discovering how the past affects your present and what to do about it, and how to use the body's inbuilt stress recovery system to work with strong feelings. So, Roma, over to you.
Thanks, Yolanda. Yes, as you just said, my background is in birth and parenting, so I primarily teach this stuff to parents. However, this session is accessible to hopefully just about anyone. And just while folks are joining, I wondered if you wanted to maybe put in the chat, why did you come to this session? What are you hoping to get from a session like this? I'd love to hear. And I also sent a poll to Steve. I don't know if you've got that ready to go, Steve, but you could share that poll. And it's all around feelings. What do you do when you're full of feelings? How do you normally manage that? I'm not talking about ideally, I'm talking about what you actually do in your day-to-day life.
It's taking me a second to get it going through. The option there. Why is it not coming up?
So in terms of what people are wanting to get from it, I don't know whether you can see the chat there, Roma, but we've got Sophie saying, talking about boundaries in relationship.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Learning and practicing about listening. Absolutely. Hopefully we will do certainly that. I have a challenging partnership and I think that we both have a feeling of not being heard and understood. I would love to change that for the better. Great. Yeah. So look out for the poll that Steve is going to post shortly. I'd love to hear what you are generally doing to manage feelings at the moment. And I feel like this is an area where we are really undereducated. I wish that we learned this stuff in school. This is really fundamental to our well-being, what we do when upsets happen in day-to-day life. So listening partnerships are a structure that I love teaching about. I'm really excited to talk about because it has been so transformative for me personally. And I'm going to explain a bit about the practice, and hopefully you'll have enough information that you can then go away and start to make use of this. So reasons why having a structure for managing your feelings is so invaluable. Firstly, it really helps you access your full innate intelligence, because when we are upset or preoccupied or anxious or angry or any myriad of feelings, it actually physiologically takes down our thinking function. So the prefrontal cortex, responsible for logic and decision making and language and sort of higher thought, gets kind of inhibited the fuller we get of feelings. And you will notice that having a clean, I love referring to this as emotional hygiene, because having a kind of clean way of working with your feelings will really enhance all your relationships. So what many of us are doing is, the things that build up through day-to-day life, the kind of minor stresses and strains, or the really big stuff that we go through, we kind of carry that around with us. We stuff some of it down, and then we use our relationship as a way of processing feelings. So maybe you've got a certain friend who's a really good listener, and when you get to see them, you kind of do this slightly awkward dance where, you both need to offload about a certain topic that maybe doesn't even really have much to do with the other person. And at some point, you kind of got to fit that into your social interaction. Beyond this, I think when we are full of feelings, it tends to leak out into our relationships. So we get reactive. Anyone who's a parent will know that it's when you're really overloaded that you kind of lose it with your kids, or you can't really be calm and available and present with them in the way that you want to be. So having somewhere to take all this stuff and work through it so that you can leave feeling more centered, more yourself, more embodied, calmer, seeing more clearly, it actually has the impact of improving all your relationships. In terms of self-care, one of the really key elements of self-care, I'm sure you are getting a lot through these talks, is how easily we can uphold boundaries. And boundaries is all to do with feelings. We're worried that the other person is not going to react well if we say no, or, we need to try and get approval through overstretching, or we actually kind of aren't even really in touch with what we need because we've been so used to sort of stuffing our feelings and suppressing our needs. So this is a structure that's going to lead us back to clearer relationships, clearer boundaries. It's going to reduce that feeling of shame that prevents us from moving forward in the world, that kind of, makes areas of our relating sticky. Because this is a practice that is done with a partner, a listening partner, it has the effect of really increasing your capacity for intimacy, because you're just showing them little bits about yourself that you probably judge quite heavily, and noticing that actually the other person still thinks you're wonderful, hasn't got the same kind of judgments or attachments that you have at all. I'm just going to have a look and see whether there's any response to the poll. Okay.
Yes.
Cool. So we've got people are crying alone, 24% there. The highest one is compulsively eating at 41%. Yeah, can't relate to that one at all. We've got a bit of bitching, a bit of busily fixing things. Some people saying they're exploding. So this is our normal kind of go-to way of handling our feelings. And humans are built for connection. We thrive best when we're in connection with another human. We're built for co-regulation. Our nervous systems de-escalate when we are in calm connection with another human. So if you're interested in all of this stuff, you could check out, there's a neuroscientist called Louis Cozolino. He talks a lot about how our brains are constantly seeking to kind of sync up with one another. And probably even the few people who are here now, just as a result of us sitting here together, even though we can't see each other or necessarily even hear each other, it's likely that our brain patterns are going to be starting to adapt to one another and sync up. And we have mirror neurons. So when you are listening to me talking about something or conveying a certain feeling or idea, neurons in your brain are going to be lighting up that mirror those in my brain right now. So we're built for this stuff, and it really makes sense to make good use of our capacity for co-regulation. And once we know how to do it, once we have a structure for it, once we have permission, it's something that just innately feels really good. So before I tell you more about listening partnerships and how you do this, what it is, I just want to, is it possible, can we get someone up front is there a volunteer that might do a little demo with me? Just for like 2 minutes. You want to do it, Steve?
I was just going to say, raise your hand to anyone.
Okay, great.
Or say yes in the chat.
So what I'm asking for is someone just to come up front just for like 2 minutes.
Got Jessica making her way into the room now. Always takes a second.
Mm-hmm. Great. Thanks for that, Jessica. So what I want to do here is just to show how valuable our attention is. Your attention is the most valuable resource you have to offer another human. And yeah, I can't see Jessica. Is she up yet?
My camera's on. I don't know if
I can see you now.
what you do. Oh, hi.
Hi. Thanks for jumping in, even though you had no idea what I was going to put you through. Bless you. What I'd really love us to do is just for the next 2 minutes, I am going to offer you my full undivided attention, but I'd really like everyone else here to do the same. And Jessica, what you just focus on receiving that attention wordlessly. So you don't have to say anything. You can't get this wrong. We're just going to give attention, and it's a kind of delighted attention, like, oh wow, he's a really cool human. Isn't she lovely? And Steve, would you do me a timer for like maybe 1.5 minutes?
Will do.
Thank you. So everyone just giving all your attention to this gorgeous woman here. Thank you. Great. Thanks so much for doing that, Jessica. How was that to be on the receiving end of attention?
With it just being you, I think that made it a little bit easier. My brain was thinking what everyone else on the other side of the screens are possibly thinking, and then I think it was Annabelle or someone popped up, and I was like, oh, there really are other people. For a second.
How does it feel in your body when you're with someone with full attention?
In my body, I feel like I want to give back. Like it's an automatic.
Yeah. Is it slightly uncomfortable not to be able to give back?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's one of the ways that we deflect attention. Too much. And I think most of us are really used to giving this kind of attention. And at first it can feel quite daunting and slightly overwhelming. I don't know if that was your experience. No. Great. Thanks so much for doing that. I'm going to let you go. I'd love to still be able to see you if that still works.
I'll stay on. I was just having a bit of a snack.
Great. Go ahead, please. And it's lovely to see you too, Annabelle. Hi, Tally. So our attention is the most valuable resource we have in the context of listening. And if you just take away one thing from this session, it's that your attention is what you're offering. You don't need to fix anything. You don't need to say anything clever. You don't need to, offer any kind of wisdom. Just being really present with someone, which basically involves shelving your own stuff for a minute, it feels really good to most people to have that kind of attention. So yeah, listening partnerships. This is a structure where two people make an agreement, set a sort of clear container to listen to one another. So you will take turns and you will swap listening time. As the speaker, what you're doing is just having absolute free rein to say anything you want to say. So complete freedom of mouth. You can swear, you can be the most obnoxious version of yourself. You can catastrophize, you can exaggerate. It doesn't even really need to be true, what you're saying. And the objective is to get to the feelings that are stored in your body as sensations. So ideally, we start to build up safety in this kind of agreement with someone else. And as you show a little bit more about yourself and they risk showing a little bit more about themselves, you'll start to develop a quite tender and quite deep, meaningful relationship with another human. And as you do that, a byproduct of receiving this quality of attention is that feelings start to bubble up. So there's this kind of emotional release process that is really innate. The kind of mechanism by which we release stress is through laughter and crying and sweating and shaking and trembling and yawning. And you don't need to effort this. This is something that happens really naturally when you feel safe and when you have someone that's really with you. Lots of people saying that they are crying on their own when they get upset. And I think that's what we do as a result of maybe feeling like we don't really have permission to cry with other people. Certainly as babies, we're often left to cry by ourselves, you know, in a pram at the end of the garden or in a cot in a dark room, or we're shushed and hushed. We're kind of rocked on hips or given a dummy. Or when we become a bit older, we're told to, you know, don't cry, be brave. There's a good girl. Be a tough boy. And so we tend to feel quite ashamed of crying by the time we reach adulthood. Many of us kind of cover our faces if we cry in public or run off to the loo, or, you know, it's not something that's really that socially acceptable, certainly in some contexts. And it's something that happens very naturally when we're in co-regulation with another human who is, you know, really seeing the best of us. So what you are trying to do as the speaker is share just the information that helps you get to the emotional release. Whichever words you need to say that help you rage. And, you know, a lot of that might be nonsense in the moment. You might come back to that and go, yeah, well, not really entirely true. You might need to be really still and just feel a bit tender for a moment. Many of us kind of keep really busy and distract ourselves or talk really fast in order to avoid feeling. So if that's you, you might try slowing down and really feeling what you're saying. Really using the body as a way to access your feelings. So noticing your sensations, maybe moving your body, making some sound. Let your kind of animal take over with this. And then you might want to counter some of the feelings that you have. For example, if you've just had an interaction with your boss where you felt quite powerless, you might want to take a really big pillow and like lay into it and tell them all the things that you wish you'd said, and kind of stand for yourself. That can be a really good way of helping the emotional. You might want to counter the feeling of being completely overwhelmed and busy and pushing through in your life by lying down. And it might be that the stillness and the rest and the just putting it all down for a moment helps bring some feelings. As the listener, what you're trying to do is just really stay with the other person's experience. So where this differs from normal conversation is that we don't actually jump in and take it off on our own tangent. We're just staying with this gorgeous person in front of us and really offering our delight, seeing the absolute best in that person. So even if they're telling you things that they feel maybe quite squirmy or ashamed about, you're just going to see how delightful and adorable this human is, trying to do their best to figure out this really tricky life business. You can ask open questions. You might say things like, say more about that, or what was that like for you? How was that? What do you wish you could say? What do you want them to know? Say more about that time. Anywhere where you feel they might have just brushed over the feelings, you can draw their attention back to it. Not for your own curiosity. You're not asking questions to fill yourself in on the information. Actually, you don't really even need to understand what they're talking about. Your main goal is to help them feel their feelings, so you don't even want to waste their time with making sure that you understand. Help them access their feelings through their body. So you might encourage them to move a little bit, or to make some noise, or push, or throttle something. Yeah, you might help them cry by just making your presence really known, by being warm, saying something like, I'm right here, or I'm really sorry. And what this is not is about analyzing. You're not trying to analyze yourself. It's not in your head. This is really working through the body on a very emotional level. It's not about being spiritual, like understanding the deeper meaning of why this thing is happening. It's not about being okay with everything, which is sometimes a pattern that we get into. You want to lean into the part of yourself that is really not okay with this situation, even if you do have a wider perspective on, the sort of general okayness. This is really different from having a chat with your friend. One thing I just said was that, you don't take it off on different directions. So you've got sort of like uninterrupted time to stay with your feelings and your experience, and you're making sense of what's happening to you. It's safer because you've got this kind of very contained space. You've got this permission to really go into some depth using the other person's attention. You don't need to like make it fair or make sure that the other person is getting to speak as much as you like. Often in conversation we sort of hold ourselves back to make sure we're not talking too much. With this, what you're going to do is actually set up a timer. So whatever amount of time you've got to exchange, you're going to set a timer to really contain that. It could be anything from 5 or 10 minutes up to 45 minutes each, if you can pay attention for that long. And you can do that as frequently as you like. There have been some days where some days have been like a 6 or 8 listening partnership day. Those have been some of the harder days. But for me, this is a practice that I have been doing pretty much daily for the last 6 years. And it has taken over from a lot of other things that I would invest my time in, because I have found it so invaluable in terms of my overall well-being and ability to kind of move through challenges in my life without getting frozen and held back. What this is about is warmth, attention, movement, sound, freedom to say anything you want, safety, emotional release, vulnerability, sharing things that you might not really want other people to know about you, and permission just to take it in any direction that you want. So yeah, I just want to check if there are any questions from what I've been sharing so far in terms of the the kind of listening aspect, like what you do as a listener or a speaker. I'm going to speak more about the kind of practical technicalities in terms of who you can do this with and how you set it up. So if you've got any questions, you can just put them in the chat. All right.
Also, the question and answer section, if you want to put them there.
Say that again, Steve.
There's a question answer section as well where people put it. So
okay.
Just asked, how do you encourage natural listeners to feel able to open?
How do you encourage natural listeners to feel able to open? Okay, so if you are used to being in a listening role and you don't normally share that much of yourself, is that what you mean, Jessica? Okay, so sorry, go on.
So like my partner is a really good listener because he's also a great bottling everything up. So kind of how to hold space for that person, for them to know that it's safe to do that as well.
Okay. Well, I think just by using the timer, actually, and just by having the structure for it, they're going to have a certain amount of minutes where it's their time. So that might feel really uncomfortable at first. It might bring up feelings in itself, just having that space and having that attention. Some people, when they're new to this, go, okay, that's it, I'm done now. And they want to turn the timer off sooner than it actually is. But yeah, it's actually surprising how quickly people start to make use of this kind of time, even if they're a bit shy or reluctant at first, or sort of not practiced in this way of being. I think it's something we're all deeply thirsty for. So yeah, I'd love to hear what happens with that. Can you hug the other person when they're quiet? Of course you can, if you're in person, if you're not social distancing. And ways to make your warmth felt when you're not in person would be like, sometimes you can kind of move closer to the camera just to make it feel like you're nearer. Sometimes having proximity can help people access their feelings. Some people access their feelings better when you move back a bit. They feel like they've got the space they need to be with themselves. Let me just see if there's any more questions. When things get too emotional, my head tends to take over control and find an escape. Do you have any recommendations on how to stay or get in touch with your feelings? That's a really great question. Thank you, Peter. So this is a practice. This is something that you learn by doing it. And I wish that we were able to make this session even more interactive, that you could have a go right now. And it may be that for several weeks or even months, you actually stay mostly in your head. So you're not really trying to do this by effort. You're not trying to force yourself to get to your feelings. Feelings don't work like that. Feelings bubble up when you feel really safe. So you can just keep working on the issues by talking around them, and that's going to be valuable in itself. And as you deepen into the listening partnership, you're going to find that you become more and more able to access feelings. But also, I would recommend working with the body in whichever way, you can experiment with whether it works better for you to be in close proximity with another person, whether moving or making sound, or sometimes it's kind of fake it to make it. You might just start really taking it out on a pillow and like being quite cathartic and thrashing about, and you might not even really feel it, and then suddenly at a certain point it just takes over. This teaching gives me a new strategy for talking during this politically tense time. I will listen more for the feelings rather than the view. Yeah, really good insight. That a lot of the conversations going on right now are very emotionally loaded. much more valuable to be with somebody's feelings than their thinking often. Great. Okay, so I wanted to do another little demo. Maybe just for like 3 minutes, and I could do that with you again, Jessica, if you're willing. This is going to be a speaking demo. So what I want you to do is talk about a conflict that you have in your life, a conflict with someone, and basically how you feel about that. So Steve, would you do a 3-minute timer? And you who are watching, I just want you to notice what I'm with my body and my voice, what kind of questions I might ask, and notice you might offer a question or a suggestion. If you were the one listening, notice where you would want to respond or how you might. Is that okay, Steve?
Yeah, and I'll just add that, Jessica, could you just unmute when you're talking, because you seem to have some weird background noise going on, so just unmute when you're going to talk. Thanks.
Okay, let me know if the sound's going to work. All right.
I put in the earphones, so I hope that helps a little bit. If that's not coming through clearly, just let me know.
Thank you, darling. Is that okay? All right. So Jessica, off you go. Yeah, you don't need to tell us the information, but see if you want to explore the feelings around this conflict.
I'm feeling very trapped, powerless, and at the same time confused from the space that we attract certain kinds of people and dynamics into our life and create them. So there's a part of me that's feeling very proud of myself, that I'm not blaming myself as much as I normally do, but even more confused by what's happening, and a little bit fearful.
That trapped feeling for a minute, and maybe just move your body a little bit while you feel that. What's that like?
Cautious.
Mm.
Feels like I can move, but I don't know which move is going to set off a bomb.
Yeah. What's this powerless, confused, trapped feeling like?
How to move forward, because it's the space I'm living in, and the tenant villas below us. So it's genuinely like just how to move from day to day, and move forward. I don't feel like I have options, I suppose.
Mm. That like in your body?
It felt really good to say that, actually. Felt like my shoulders softened a little bit. There appears to be a knot in my tummy, though, at the same time.
Go with that knot for a sec.
Very nauseating.
First of this nausea knot. What's your earliest memory of feeling like that?
When I was younger, I had a lot of tummy issues. So it's like an image of me curled up around my tummy.
Oh. How was that for you?
Debilitating.
I'm really sorry.
Now I kind of want to apologize because I'm busy laughing as a coping mechanism.
You get to laugh. Laughter's great.
Feels good to laugh as well. let it know it's not as serious or safe, I suppose.
Yeah, you can't get this wrong. Thank you, Steve. Thanks, Jessica, for doing that.
Thank you. Thank you,
What we
everyone.
do at this point is ask a little, we call it an attention out question. So Jessica, I'm going to ask you if you can look around and tell me anything yellow in the room that you're in.
My sticky notes on my laptop.
Great. Thank you for that, Dali.
Thank you.
I'm just going to give a few sort of practical bits of information around how to do this. So like who you would set up a listening partnership with. You could do it with a friend, anyone you think might be a good listener and you want to have this kind of exchange with. You could connect with someone on this call. So I think probably the best way to do this is that I'm going to start a thread in the Embodiment Conference Facebook group. And if you're not in that Facebook group, you really should be, because it's awesome. Like you can ask about anything in there and there's just like such amazing responses. So look out for that. I'm going to start a thread specifically for linking people up for listening partnerships. And I will do that later today. So just go and check in there and you can connect with one of these lovely embodiment crew and get started. So it doesn't have to be someone you know, and actually it can feel really safe to do it with someone who doesn't know anyone that you're talking about. It's very unlikely to meet any of those people. It's recommended not to do it with so the way I was trained is that you don't do it with someone of the opposite sex, which is very heteronormative. And if you're bisexual like me, what do you do? And that didn't work out so well for me. I'm actually in a relationship with my listening partner. But the idea is that it can open up. It's a really intimate practice, and it can open up feelings, and it's probably not ideal to act on those feelings because some of them might be quite young feelings coming up as a result of having the attention that you've always longed for. So really ideal to keep that quite clear. So perhaps, just bearing that in mind when you choose your listening partner. You want to keep it confidential to the extent where you wouldn't even bring up the content that someone shared with you, even just with them. So obviously you wouldn't share it with anyone else, but actually we're going to give everyone ownership over their own material. So when you saw your listening partner the next week, you wouldn't say like, oh, how's your cat doing? You would just let them, if they wanted to say, oh, it's all right, my cat made it through, then let them be in charge of that. That's going to really help it feel more safe. And when it feels safe, you can make more effective use of it because the feelings are going to come up more easily. I have a listening guide that's a really good kind of how to get started with this stuff. I think Steve's got the link for that. He can put it in the chat. And if you can't see the chat for any reason, I will also put that in the thread in the Embodiment Conference Facebook group. So you can go and look for that there. And what I want to leave you with is a pre-recorded demo with one of my clients who is just a master at accessing her feelings. So yeah, you can have a look. I don't feel like it was actually a sort of pristine example of listening, but it's a really good example of how to make use of someone's attention. So when you're ready, Steve, you could play that, and then we'll have a few minutes at the end and we'll come back to any questions.
Just to be clear, it's we've hit this session at 10:02, right?
Okay, yes we do. So we're going to play the demo and we're going to have like 1 minute to wrap up.
Yeah, okay, so the demo it shows 15 minutes for me, so maybe you can just tell me.
Oh,
all of it?
No, it's
I imagine there's lots at the start that isn't needed. So do you want to speak, Roma? I saw your mouth moving.
ah no, I was just saying sorry about that.
Alright, I'll work out where it starts.
Uh-huh. No, forward on from there.
Alright, let's try here. What did you say there, Roma?
That was right at the beginning. I think you might need to skip on quite a few minutes from there.
Okay,
When
do you know
she
how many minutes?
by that white door, that's where she started.
Alright, try and work out where that is.
Should be like 6 or 7 minutes in.
Okay. Here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tomorrow.
All right. Thanks for that, Steve. I am afraid I haven't left an awful lot of time for questions. If you want to put some in the Q&A, I will do my best. I can maybe take one before we wrap up.
We typically should sort of be closing the room almost now is for the next
Okay,
thing.
fine.
But you can add it to the Facebook thread you're going to create today in the Facebook
Yeah.
group.
Yeah, great. So if you want to go further with this, check out that thread on Facebook. I will share a link to how to get the listening guide so you can get started, and I will do my best to help you guys pair up so that you can find a listening partner, get started with. Yeah, apologies that we've run over slightly. Thank you so much, Steve.
Thank you, Roma, as usual. It's still a weird session because Roma would normally lead some stuff into breakout rooms, perhaps, or something along those lines. But of course, webinars a little bit different. So do follow Roma up. She's always up on the Facebook group as well, adding all sorts of valuable insights. So please do check her out, follow through there. And we've got Philip Shepherd over on the next stage. I see people exchanging all sorts of things in the chat there as well. So, yeah, do hop on there after this. And head across to Philip Shepherd. If you want to see Roma on the conference or have replay of her, you can also get the recordings of this self-care event as part of a package for the entire conference, which you'll get bonus tutorial access to as well if you get the package now. Because really we're trying to make it as valuable as we can because we're recording for £1 million in debt. It's essentially the thing. So if you want to get that, it's the best price you're going to get for the whole conference at this stage. Add us on the Facebook group, follow Roma there. What's your preferred website these days, Roma, or you just prefer through Facebook? Because you've got a few bits and pieces.
Yeah, my website is birthingabetterworld.co.uk.
All right, that's the one I had down, but then I wasn't sure. Right, and then do set aside the dates for the conference later this year as well if you want to check everyone out and try and squeeze 1,000 talks in 10 days because it's hardly possible. So catch you over on the Shepherd's thing, and thank you, Roma. And till next time, I'll drop you an email soon with all this stuff as well. Cheers.
Bye, everyone. Thanks so much.
There's some nice love coming in the chat.